On this island there is 2 villages, which is on each village lives about 2,700 people, and we all together more than 5,000. My name is Abdallah Hassan Mohammed. I'm from Elephantine Island, on the river which is very close to Aswan, and it's Nubian people. All the people lives on this island, they are Nubian. It's one of the best places for being a child. I mean, having the Nile beside you, your family teaching you the first thing you have to learn is how to swim. Then, because there was no cars, there was no motorbikes on the islands, everybody knows each other on the island. So wherever you go, they know that you are the child of this person, or your brother is this, or your cousin is this. We have the Egyptian nationality, but we still have inside us the history, which is usually you hear it from your father or from your grandfather about old Nubia. Of course, we are part of Egypt, but we have a different cultural, we have a different customs, and all these things, the only things we are on the same religion, which is Islam. The city for us, it means Aswan, the other side, which is only 5 minutes. You just cross with a ferry, but you found yourself in another life. But when you cross to the island back, so it's completely quiet. There is no cars, there is no noise. It's only these 5 minutes between each other, between the island and the city.
King Zedekiah mounted his ill-advised revolt against Babylon, and Nebuchadnezzar himself led the Babylonian army that sacked Jerusalem and took the Jews into exile. The Bible tells us that all the nobles, blacksmiths, and metalworkers, 10,000 people in all, were led off from Jerusalem, and that only the poorest people were left behind. Further, the Babylonians despoiled the temple and killed the high priests, Sariah and Zephaniah. King Zedekiah was blinded and put in chains, and in that way, Judah was deported from its land. And there, by the rivers of Babylon, the people wept when they remembered Zion. The Bible further speaks of the poor Jews that were left behind in Judah. Many of them fled to Egypt. It is thought that some of these Jews continued their journey far down the reaches of the Nile, where they came to the island of Elephantine, to a place called the City of Ivories. It is documented in the Elephantine papyri that the Jews developed a remarkable trading relationship with the land of Ethiopia. Using the Nile as a highway, war elephants, ivory, spices, and gold passed through Elephantine on the way north to Alexandria and the Mediterranean. The Elephantine Jews grew rich and powerful. They built the first temple outside of Jerusalem and formed a militia known as the Jewish Force, which was charged with protecting Egypt's southern frontier. Elephantine was also the sacred island of the Egyptian deity Canub, whose sacred beast was the ox. But when the Jews persisted in sacrificing these animals during their rituals, in revenge, the Egyptian priests, in league with the Persian commander of the city, destroyed the Jewish temple in 411 BC. After the decline of Elephantine, it is theorized that the Jewish community followed the well-known trade route down the Blue Nile. A Falasha spiritual leader said in the 1860s that we came after Jeremiah, we came by Sinar, and from there to Axum. In the 9th century, Eldad Hadani, the fabled Jewish traveler, reported a powerful Jewish nation existed in Africa. He said the kingdom had been founded by the tribe of Dan. The kingdom was reportedly surrounded by the mystical Sambachan River, which rolled sand and stone during the week, but was surrounded by fire during the Sabbath.
Isaiah recorded that many Jews escaped into Egypt at this time, and Isaiah the prophet recorded that in his day many Jews lived in Sinim, which is an area around Aswan today. Therefore, we are now in Aswan looking for any leads that will help us find the evidence for an ancient Jewish community being here. Yours sincerely, Paul and Matthew. Glistening and pointing the way here on Elephantine Island, the most amazing discovery was found. Archaeologists uncovered a large collection of ancient Jewish manuscripts dating to around 500 years before Christ, proving that a Jewish community once lived on this island. And, to the amazement of many, these letters confirmed that a Jewish temple once stood here in Egypt on this island. The letters confirmed that it was called the Temple of Yahweh, and the priests carried out animal and grain sacrifices whilst observing the Passover as Moses instructed. Using the data available from the archaeological remains on this island, we can now construct an artist's impression of this lost Jewish temple.
So right here, I actually have the book, all the writings, okay? I have all of the writings of the Elephantine Jews or the Elephantine Papyri in English, okay? I have all the writings in the book right here. How is it possible? Look what it says here. It says the 3 millennia of cross-cultural, okay, continuity and change. And this is the second revived edition. Okay, but I have a copy right here of the Elephantine Jews writings. These are the Jews that went down into Africa with Jeremiah. Okay, we all know they took Jeremiah. Jeremiah was forced. He was forced to go into Africa, and they went to Egypt, and many of the Jews continued further south, and they went down by Elephantine. Elephantine, and also Aswan was located near Elephantine, as you see here on the map. Okay, this is the map right here, and this is close to Kush or Ethiopia. Okay, this is the in ancient times considered to be Upper Egypt, which is really south of Egypt, which is close to Ethiopia, and close to the Nile River, which is the rivers of Kush, the rivers of Ethiopia. Okay, because a long time ago in the early centuries, many parts of West Africa was called Ethiopia. Many parts of West Africa was considered to be Ethiopia. That is why Zephaniah says, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, or beyond the rivers of Cush. So I have all the writings of the Elephantine Jews. Now, how is it that these camps, claiming to know the Bible, etc., how is it that they don't know anything about the Elephantine Jews that fled from the Babylonians and went into Egypt and went further south? And they established their own communities in Elephantine. And they had a temple and everything. let me show you brothers and sisters something right here. This is the intro inside the book. Look what it says here. In Aramaic. It was written in Aramaic. Okay, so the archaeologists, they found many writings left behind of the Elephantine Jews, and they translated all their writings into a book, okay, or into English. It says here, I shall not be able, I, Jedaniah, or my children, or women, or woman, or man of mine, and I shall not be able to institute against you suit or process. Okay, but I just want to show you guys the introduction. And this is called a waiver of suit. So all of these Elephantine papyri writings, it deals with their documents, their rules and regulations, etc. The selling of land, if you sell your land, dealing with trials, if you have to go to court, dealing with money, dealing with the high holy days, and they kept in contact with all the Jews in Judea. He says, I, Jedaniah, it says, or in the name of children or woman or man, etc. So this is the introduction. But throughout this whole book here, I have all their writings. Okay, all of their writings. And these writings give you the date. I honestly believe that every Negro should have this book in their possession. If you're really a Bible scholar, you should have this book. I have all their writings. They give you the dates, when they was written, etc. Who was ruling in rulership. Look what it says here. It says 1150 BCE. This is a writing from 1150 BCE. And it says Ramesses the fifth was the pharaoh at the time. Okay, because in the Elephantine papyri, they had the dates and everything on the scrolls. These scrolls go all the way back to 1150. Okay, 1150. Let's continue. As I said before, the Jews fled from the Babylonians, and they went further south, and they went deep into Africa to Elephantine. Here's another papyri that was located, another document. Here's another document right here. I have all the documents in this book right here. Every single document I have in this book. Every document. But look what it says here. This was written in 1073 BCE. Okay, and this pharaoh was named Ramesses also. Okay, it gives you the month, everything. Now let me read you a portion of this letter. It says, the scribe Tutmosis of the necropolis in the scribe of Berchanum. Okay, so it says in life, prosperity, and health, etc., etc. Okay, some of these scribes or letters were written by the ancient Egyptians, but most of them actually was written by the black Jews in Africa. The black Jews in Africa. And like I said, when you continue to flip through, let me show you guys something real quick here. Just be a little patient right here. Let me show you guys something real quick. Okay, here's another date. Let me give you guys another date. November the 25th in 407 BCE. Okay, in Elephantine, another writing that was located in 407 BCE. Okay, it says, from Jedaniah and his colleagues to the priest, okay, by Gavaiah, governor of Judah. So this guy was the governor of Judah. Okay, it says the object is the reconstruction of the temple because the temple was destroyed by the Egyptians. See, we don't know this part of history. We don't know about the temple in Elephantine that the Egyptians destroyed, and the Jews in Elephantine, they wrote letters to the governor in Judea and requested to help them rebuild the temple. We don't know this part. We don't know this here. See, right here it says, he wrote a letter. He says, to our Lord, Bagavahiah, governor of Judah, your servants, Jedaniah, and his colleagues, the priests, who are in Elephantine, the fortress. And when you continue to read, he basically is asking for help. He's asking for the Jews in Judea to help them rebuild the temple. I have all the writings. This book is very thick. You have all the writings of the Elephantine Jews. So I don't know for the life of me how our people don't know about the Jews of Elephantine, which are the Jews that fled from the Babylonians with Jeremiah. But many of them went further south. They went further south to get away from the Babylonians. They decided to go even deeper into Africa to get away from the Babylonians. And many of the Jews went west in Africa also. They always fled into Africa. Always. Even the 10 tribes, they migrated into Africa. Africa has always been the refuge or a safe haven for the Jews. Always. Throughout history. Our ancestors always went into Africa. Always.
The Elephantine Jews grew rich and powerful. They built the first temple outside of Jerusalem and formed a militia known as the Jewish Force, which was charged with protecting Egypt's southern frontier.
Did you hear that? All of you fake northernish wannabe Negro Israelites. He said that the Jews of Elephantine were the first and only Jews to build another temple outside Jerusalem. They were the only Jews outside Jerusalem to build a temple. Not in America. No damn Jews built no temples in America because the 10 tribes, they did not come to the Americas.
The Elephantine Jews grew rich and powerful. They built the first temple outside of Jerusalem and formed a militia known as the Jewish Force, which was charged with protecting Egypt's southern frontier.
So now, as you can see, the Elephantine Jews had a kingdom in Lower Egypt near Cush, and they also had a temple. Okay, they were the only Jews to have a temple outside Jerusalem. But let me show you guys something real quick here. Let's go to the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah chapter 48. And I'm going to read verses 8 through 12. Isaiah 48 verse 8. It says, thus says the Lord, in an acceptable time have I heard thee, and in a day of salvation have I helped thee, and I will preserve thee and give thee for a covenant. And this is speaking of Christ. I will give thee, meaning Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, I will give thee as a covenant of the people to establish the earth, to cause to inherit the desolate heritage. Verse 9, that thou mayest say to the prisoners, go forth, to them that are in darkness, show yourselves. They shall feed in the ways, and their pastures shall be in all high places. Verse 10 says, and they shall not hunger, nor thirst, neither, it says, shall the heat nor sun smite them. For he that hath mercy on them shall lead them. So it says that the Messiah, who was given as a covenant, he shall lead them, even by the springs of water. It says, shall he guide them. Verse 11, and I, God says, I will make all my mountains a way, and my highways shall be exalted. Shall be exalted. Verse 12. Behold, God says, behold, these shall come from far, meaning the scattered Jews or the scattered Israelites, okay, which is all the 12 tribes. These shall come from far, and lo, these from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim. Sinim. Now it says the land of Sinim is Aswan or Aswan. Aswan. Aswan, as you see here, is located near Elephantine, where the Elephantine Jews used to dwell, and they had a temple. So it says that these scattered Jews or scattered Israelites, they shall come from the north and from the west, which is West Africa, and these from the land of Sinim, which is Aswan. Okay, so West Africa is west of the Cushite rivers, the rivers of Ethiopia. This is why Zephaniah says in Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 10, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, meaning west and southwest of the Ethiopian rivers, which is also the Nile River or the Cushite River. So it says again, God says, and these, they shall come from the north and from the west, which is West Africa, because West Africa is west of Sinim, west of Aswan, west of Elephantine. It says that they shall come from the west and from the land of Aswan or Aswan. During the time, it says, of the Messiah, because it says again, it says, I will preserve thee and give thee for a covenant of the people. Verse 9, that they may say to the prisoners, or that thou may say, that Christ may say to the prisoners, go forth to them that are in darkness, show yourselves. This lines right up also with 2nd Ezra. Lines right up when it says, and he gathered a peaceable multitude unto himself. When he walked the earth, Christ gathered peaceable multitudes that came from far to see him preach because of his fame. His fame was throughout all that region. So it says that God says that these Jews will come from far just to see the Messiah. One more time, verse 12, behold, these shall come from far, and from, it says, and lo, these from the north, which is up by the Euphrates River, and from the west, which is West Africa, and these from the land of Sinim, which is Aswan.
Welcome to Aswan. On the way to our Nubian village, we had a party.
We have food.
You sit like
Like a queen.
Queen T.
That's right.
Queen T, huh? We have the Queen Chariot here.
1 second.
My queen, please.
دقيقة واحدة بس عشان الناس.
Go on. Upon arrival, we were greeted by our Nubian cousins with more song and dance. The beautiful children of Elephantine Island were so eager to receive their gifts. Oh, how beautiful these children are. Energy and the hospitality of the people on Elephantine Island can be seen everywhere, especially when they engage you in trade. How old is your father?
My father, as you.
Yeah?
As you. Yes.
No.
Yes, I am the youngest.
How old are you? Huh?
20.
You're 20?
Yes, I am the youngest student.
You have 2 children?
I am university student.
Yeah?
I joined the faculty of arts, department of English.
Which department of English where?
Here in the university, faculty of arts.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted for the last I wanted to be a tour guide, but our tradition not allows the girl to be a tour guide.
Really?
As so my father told me to join this faculty of arts.
Okay.
And I want to be English teacher.
But you speak English very well.
Yes, because I studied English for 6 years.
6 years? Okay.
When I was in 6 years, 7 years.
Okay.
When I was in primary school.
Okay.
Inviting you for teaching with her, she's been looking you
for a picture. Want a picture? visited the home of some of the sisters on Elephantine Island. And if you're a woman, oh no, you can't escape the henna.
The rest, 10 pounds. Let's keep going.
Lalibela is the holiest of all the holy cities in Ethiopia. It is at this site many religious rituals are celebrated. The faithful of Ethiopian Orthodox Christmas come from far and wide to celebrate this most holy day on the Ethiopian calendar. A visit to the house of Beth Israel, home of the original Jews, is a most important event.
In 1670, the king declared that only Christians should live in the capital city of Gondar. So the Falasha and the Muslims have been forced to establish their own village outside the capital city. So this village was established in 1670 by the black Jewish community, what we call the Falasha, or at this moment, Beth Israel, which means the house of Israel.
The Bible tells us that all the nobles, blacksmiths, and metalworkers, 10,000 people in all, were led off from Jerusalem, and that only the poorest people were left behind. Further, the Babylonians despoiled the temple and killed the high priests, Sariah and Zephaniah. The Bible further speaks of the poor Jews that were left behind in Judah. Many of them fled to Egypt. It is thought that some of these Jews continued their journey far down the reaches of the Nile, where they came to the island of Elephantine, to a place called the City of Ivories. The Bible further speaks of the poor Jews that were left behind in Judah. Many of them fled to Egypt. It is thought that some of these Jews continued their journey far down the reaches of the Nile, where they came to the island of Elephantine, to a place called the City of Ivories. It is documented in the Elephantine papyri that the Jews developed a remarkable trading relationship with the land of Ethiopia.
So right here, I actually have the book, all the writings, okay? I have all of the writings of the Elephantine Jews, or the Elephantine papyri.
Using the Nile as a highway, war elephants, ivory, spices, and gold passed through Elephantine on the way north to Alexandria and the Mediterranean. The Elephantine Jews grew rich and powerful. They built the first temple outside of Jerusalem and formed a militia known as the Jewish Force. Elephantine Jews grew rich and powerful. They built the first temple outside of Jerusalem and formed a militia known as the Jewish force. Elephantine Jews grew rich and powerful. They built the first temple outside of Jerusalem and Elephantine Jews grew rich and powerful. They built the first temple outside of Jerusalem and Elephantine Jews grew rich and powerful. They built the first temple outside of Jerusalem and Elephantine Jews grew rich and powerful. They built the first temple outside of Jerusalem and